definition of depression is an overwhelming feeling of sadness, despair, regret, and all these feelings they spill over and they're out of your control. On July 24th, 2019, my grandmother passed away. Um, she was 76 years old, and we were best friends. She was always way more than my grandmother. She was like my mom. And that day changed my entire life. And from July 25th, 2019, up until now, I feel like I've been placed into a world, an environment that I don't know without her. So that was one of my biggest struggles, is trying to figure out how to function without her in my space, and how to be okay, you know, because the first few months after she passed, I was just not okay. I wasn't okay. I mean, I had to function and do my daily duties as a mom, but deep down in the depths of my soul, I was not okay. Um, I was not okay. And I think that I've created this documentary. I feel like it's a release for me. I feel like it shows me how much progress I've made within these past 12 months of being without her. I've made a lot of progress, and I feel like I've learned so much about myself. I feel like I've been able to speak about my feelings more through therapy and through, my family support. And um, I feel like this could be me releasing um, these feelings that I've had, me being able to speak about them, being brave enough to speak about them, could possibly help someone else going through the exact same thing. I mean, people say that, when you lose someone, it gets easier with time. And I guess they were right. It does get a little easier with time, because I guess you get in a space where you accept the fact that they're gone, and you understand that, death is real. You understand that moments with people need to be valued, and you take life seriously, more seriously than you did before, because you don't you realize that maybe you were taking life for granted, or maybe you weren't being as intentional as you could have been with relationships. And yeah, I feel like it's just it's unfortunate, but it's normal and it's healthy to go through these things, and to be able to seek the help that you need if you need it, and to just talk about it. I mean, it sounds cliche, but literally talk about it. Like, these things don't go away. The anxiety doesn't go away. And when you do things to try to fill those spaces of how you feel, you try to like travel, you try to pick up a new hobby, you try to just listen to music, or maybe some people, they eat their feelings away, but it's all temporary, because it comes right back. And unless you address it, unless you acknowledge the fact that you're not okay and you have some things going on, you're just going to put a band-aid on it. And once that band-aid wears off, or once those temporary things end, you're left with how you I think the biggest thing that I had to overcome was the numbness that came with grief. For a long time, I wasn't feeling anything. I felt like I wasn't able to feel. And that's one of the things that I spoke with my therapist about, was that I felt like I was just numb to everything. Like I was just here. I was just existing. I wasn't living. I don't feel like I was breathing correctly. And because of that, I started having panic attacks, which at the time I didn't know that's what it was. I just knew that something wasn't right, which is why I had to seek therapy immediately because, if you're not breathing correctly, if you're not functioning correctly, it's wear and tear on your body. And it's more than just your headspace. Like, it starts to affect your physical state. And I knew then that I needed help. I knew that I needed to speak with someone. And I knew that just telling everyone that I was okay was no longer going to be acceptable enough. Um, One of the things that my grandmother taught me while she was still here was just how to be there for someone. I mean, I feel like I've been spoiled most of my life, and sometimes it comes off as inconsiderate or self absorbed, but I didn't always take into consideration people and their feelings and the things that they might be going through and their motives for the things that they do or say. And one of the things she taught me was to just be there. I mean, not in a sense that you have to just deal with someone's crap, but just like being a strong support system for someone if they felt like they didn't have anyone, be that person for them because you can, not because you feel like you're obligated. Like, be there because you can. Like, if you have the time, call. If you have the car, go visit them. If you have the funds, help them. So it's like, um she was a very giving. She was a beautiful person inside and out, no doubt, and anyone who's ever come in contact with her presence would be able to tell you the same exact. I'm just so glad and I'm so blessed that I was so close to her the way that I was throughout my entire life, but mainly the last 2 years of her life after she lost her husband. I'm just so blessed to have those times with her and those conversations with her, and just being in her space. I learned so much, and I'm just I feel like some days I'm overwhelmed with just like the sadness of not being able to call her or tell her about, you know, the big life moments that, I used to call her for. I can't do that anymore. That does suck. But I also feel like when she left a piece of her with me to be able to help people, to be there for people, to be there for my. Just a short backstory. My grandmother was diagnosed with a brain tumor about 3 months before she passed away, and the effects of that made her have really bad memory loss, and it was hard for her to remember how to do her usual routines, and just she declined quickly, but it started with her memory, and then it went to her physical, and then of course, unfortunately, she did pass away. But one of the things that I told her when she was still in her sane mind was, please don't forget me. Like, it's gonna drive me crazy if I come to your house and I'm sitting with you and I'm talking with you and you don't even know who I am. That was my biggest fear, when she started forgetting things and people and where she was. And she told me that she knows I would make sure that she didn't forget me. And that's exactly what I did. Um, whenever I was at her house right before I left, I would say, Grandma, do you know who I am? And some days her mouth would be really dry. It'd be hard to say things. She slept a lot, so if you did catch her awake, the conversations were pretty short, but I would ask her, even if I had to wake her up, I would ask her, Grandma, do you know who I am? And she would say, Lene. And every day that I left, of course, I would cry because I knew that, it was getting closer and closer to her not being here. So, the night before she passed away was actually the same day that hospice told us that she only had a week left. And when someone tells you, I knew that she was in hospice, but when someone actually tells you, like, look, this person literally only has a week or less left, it's just like, wait, like, I need more time. But that night, me and my family, we were all there just, processing the fact that, she was going to be gone a lot sooner than what we expected, and we had to get, things in place. I went in her room and she was sleeping, and I woke her up and I said, Grandma, do you know who I am? Her eyes were barely open and she was just trying to say my name. Like, she was like, look, but she couldn't get it out, and I knew that she couldn't, so I didn't want her to try to talk and, speak if she couldn't. And, but I knew that night that she was trying to say my name. I knew that she still remembered me, and that's something that I'll never forget. That's something that I'll always hold close to me, because she never did forget who I was. Even on her deathbed, she knew who I was. And I left that night not knowing that that would be the last time I was here alive. So, yeah, she actually passed away that next morning. And just to know that even though this brain tumor was taking over her body, her mind, it completely wiped out the person that I knew. She still knew me. I'll never forget. I'll never forget that. And even on my darkest days, even through all the memories of us, I can at least hold that for the rest of my life, to know that her love for me was strong enough to remember who I was. And that was my biggest fear, and now I know that I don't have to worry about her not knowing who I was before she left this earth. And I know her spirit and her presence, her positive presence, is always around me to get me through the next day. And that in itself is a blessing. Great.